Get started. Hello, this is Charlie Zelli, Chair of the Metropolitan Council, and this is the Metropolitan Council meeting this February 9th, 2022. And before we start, I just want to do a little housekeeping. This is a virtual meeting, and it is virtual under the Minnesota Statutes 13D.021. Which gives us the authorization to do so. And I think we're getting really good at it. So that's all I need to say at this point. But in order to establish a quorum, I'll ask Liz to call the roll.
Councilmember Barber. Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Fredson. Gonzalez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lee. Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Musset. Sterner.
Here.
Vento.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Zurin.
Present.
Chair Zelli.
I'm here. We have a quorum. So we have an interesting agenda, a number of business items, and a report on water, which I know we're looking forward to. And although it doesn't need a vote, unless there's an objection, I will assume the agenda is approved, which takes us to the minutes from January, January 26th, 2022. Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Wolf moves approval. Second by Chambliss.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee. Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset. Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
And Chair Zelli.
Aye. The minutes are approved. At this point, we normally have an invitation for comments from the public for those that have pre-registered. I do not believe we have anybody pre-registered, do we, Liz?
No, we don't.
Okay, but if anybody from the public is viewing us, please feel free to comment at our public email, which is public.info@metc.state.mn.us. And we'll get back to you. Which brings us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Lilligren moves approval.
Thank you.
Bento seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember Bento. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
And Chair Zelli.
Aye. The consent agenda motion is carried, which brings us to the reports of the Standing Committee. There are no reports from the Community Development nor the Environment Committee, but brings us to the Management Committee, where there are two. Councilmember Johnson, welcome in your wonderful role as chair of the Management Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the Management Committee, we are pleased to bring you business item 2021-307, the labor agreement with the International Union of Operators, local number 49. The Metropolitan Council's labor agreement with Local 49 expired on December 31st of 2020. Local 49 represents 150 employees who perform wastewater treatment and operations work. Following the recommendation from the Local 49 Executive Board, the Local 49 membership ratified the agreement on January 14th, 2021. Highlights of the agreement include a 3-year contract effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023, a 2% general wage increase in years 1 and 2, and a 2.5% general increase in the 3rd year of the contract for all active employees. And a one-time addition of 24 hours of vacation accrual will be added to all eligible employees' leave banks. The wage and benefits negotiated in this agreement are consistent with the agreements in place and with the Council's other labor unions. The cost of the labor agreement was reviewed by Finance and was negotiated within the economic parameters established by the Council. This item was reviewed and approved by the Management Committee on January 26, 2022. It was moved by Lee and seconded by Gonzalez, and that motion carried. So, Mr. Chair, the Management Committee moves the approval to authorize the Regional Administrator to enter into a labor agreement with the International Union of Operator Engineers Local 49 effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Wolf seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolf. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye, that motion carries. Back to you, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And our next business item from the Management Committee is 2022-10, a labor agreement with the Transit Managers and Supervisors Association, also known as TMSA. The TMSA contract expired on December 31st, December 31st, 2020. TMSA represents 295 managers and supervisors working across all divisions of Metro Transit. Following the recommendation from the TMSA Executive Board, the TMSA membership ratified the agreement on December 20th, 2021. Highlights of the agreement include a 3-year contract effective January 1st, 2021, expiring December 31st, 2023, a 2% general wage increase in years 1 and 2, and a 2.5% increase in the 3rd year of the contract for all active employees. For each year of the agreement, a performance pool of 1.5% to be distributed based on individual performance ratings to employees whose compensation falls within the performance zone. The cost of the labor agreement was reviewed by Finance and negotiated within the economic parameters established by the Council. This item was reviewed and approved by the Management Committee on January 26, 2022. It was moved by Lilligren and seconded by Barber, and that motion carried. So, Mr. Chair, the Management Committee moves approval to authorize the Regional Administrator to enter into a labor agreement with the Transit Managers and Supervisors Association effective January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2023.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Cummings seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion? All right, Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye, that motion carried. Also, for the record, because they're late, I just want to acknowledge that Councilmember Lee, Fredson, and Barber, who missed roll call, but they are in attendance. Which brings us to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2022-05 is regarding adoption of the Zero Emission Bus Transition Plan. The Zero Emission Bus Transition Plan is a framework to identify how Metro Transit will continue planning for transition to a zero-emission bus fleet, including battery electric buses. An information item detailing the project process and findings was presented to the Committee of the Whole on January 5th, 2022. 3 guiding principles and 6 supporting actions were established as the framework for the transition plan and for use in defining the definition of a successful transition to ZEBs. The guiding principles are technical viability, equity and environmental justice, and fiscal impact. The plan establishes a short-term target for Metro Transit of at least 20% of 40-foot bus replacement procurements to be battery electric buses from 2022 through 2027. Additionally, Metro Transit plans to update the council at least once per year on performance of the ZEB fleet and infrastructure, as well as update capital and operating plans annually based on the performance. Metro Transit also intends to host public engagement activities at least once per year on the ZEB transition plan progress. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the Zero Emission Bus Transition Plan for submittal to the Minnesota State Legislature by February 15, 2022, as required by Minnesota Statute 473.3927.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sterner seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, and I've done this in several meetings, but I'm going to do it again. Really thank Metro Transit and Carrie Desmond and her team. This has been really fantastic work. Very engaged, a lot of engagement with all of us and with the public, and with other stakeholders. And as a result, we've come out with what I think is a very successful and realistic plan. So really want to shine a light on the great work that was done here.
Well, I certainly would second that, and maybe a lack of questions, Carrie, isn't a lack of interest. You've done a lot of briefings, and we had a full discussion at the Committee of the Whole. Any other comments? All right, Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye, that motion carried. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2022-15 is regarding negotiation and execution of the master funding agreement with Hennepin County for the Metro Blue Line Extension Light Rail Transit Project. This master funding agreement is a reciprocal agreement that provides a method for transferring funds from the council to Hennepin County and Hennepin County to the council for activities related to the project. The MFA will provide the ability for the council to compensate Hennepin County for use of its technical and professional staff working on the project and to transfer funds from Hennepin County to the council for expenses and activities related to the project. The MFA identifies required federal, state, and local clauses, provisions, and procedures that govern subordinate funding agreements. The MFA establishes the ability to enter into subsequent subordinate funding agreements with Hennepin County. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute master funding agreement 21I-032 with Hennepin County for the Metro Blue Line Extension Light Rail Transit Project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Johnson seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye. Well, that motion carried. Which brings us to our information item. We're going to hear about recommendations for water supply planning in the metro area. We're going to hear from Lenya Ross, environmental analyst. But first, welcome Councilmember Wolf, who will set up this conversation. And as you know, she serves as the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committee Chair. So, Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There should be a PowerPoint coming up.
There is.
And my computer is a little slow, so bear with me here. Is that appearing as the full screen?
It is.
Thumbs up. Great.
Okay, next slide, please. So last month, the Metropolitan Area Water Supply Advisory Committee, also known as MAWSAC, and the Technical Advisory Committee, also known as TAC, held a joint meeting to approve the required 2022 report to the legislature. Next slide, please. Because aquifers and watersheds don't respect political boundaries, MAWSAC represents the 11 county metropolitan area, and so it provides a broad geographic perspective. And the committee includes representatives from all of the state's water agencies, along with appointees from county and local units of government, and from both the Minneapolis and St. Paul water utilities. One of the committee's responsibilities is to provide information to the council to consider as it updates the regional development guide. Next slide, please.
I apologize. My computer's
Is it
running a
stuck?
little slow. I'll hit it one more time. We're going to advance 3.
Maybe shut off your video. That might help.
This is a week in the water supply planning unit for technical difficulties. For those of you who were at the Environment Committee yesterday, you would you? That'd be great.
While they're doing that, this would have been the shortest Met Council meeting ever, I think, but thanks to Lanya and I, it's not going to be as quick as it otherwise would be.
This is always the way. Don't
There we go.
worry.
Water supply is critical for healthy communities and a healthy economy. It touches on all areas of the council's work. When the Met Council was first tasked with coordinating water supply planning, there was concerns that we were going to take over water supply and make it a regional system. Those concerns have been softened for the most part by a good partnership with our local water supply authorities. And this report content was developed primarily by input from those local water suppliers, recognizing the shared opportunities and risks to our regional water supply. It is intended to inform both the council's work and the legislature's role in protecting and supporting our water supply. Next slide, please. The report builds on past work toward both fiscal and environmental sustainability, recognizing a need for multiple approaches, as well as a need for alignment between the different state agencies that have a role in water supply protection and safety. With that, I will turn it over to Lanya.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Hopefully my audio is working.
Yes.
Excellent. Next slide. There are some considerations for council members and legislators in the report. In the interest of time, I won't cover them in detail now, but I do want to direct you to that content in the full report. This report was designed for the legislature and for council members to help guide your thinking related to water supply issues. Next slide. Over the past year in particular, but building on previous years, the committees spent considerable time identifying some specific goals in 4 focus areas, and they include goals for water quality, land use and water supply connections, understanding and managing groundwater and surface water interactions, and of course, water supply infrastructure. And so these are goals that the committees are hoping to advance with support from the council, the legislature, and other partners. Next slide. There were a number of very specific and wide-ranging recommendations from committee members over the past year, and the report organizes them in a framework for action with key steps. There are actions related to collaboration and capacity building, which is going to be fundamental to keep this work going. There are a number of actions related to system assessment, describing and documenting, diagramming our water supply systems, assessing hazards, characterizing risk. Also, a lot of work needed to identify and evaluate mitigation measures. And finally, committing resources and developing plans to implement what we learned through this process. So table 1 of the report has those detailed recommendations in these categories. Next slide. In December, we held a meeting of all of the participants of the sub-regional water supply work groups who meet regularly across the region, and shared these focus areas with them. And a few examples of the feedback we got are shown here when we asked, what are the questions and issues that you are thinking about? What are top of mind in your communities? So we have examples like the cleanup of existing pollution and water contamination. It is necessary, it's very costly. The need for water reuse, both wastewater and stormwater. Chloride is still a big issue in places. Other communities identified staffing as an issue because the pool of qualified candidates is small, and so we need to be building capacity. Aging infrastructure is something communities are dealing with. So there's other examples as well, but this was a really good check on the committee's work and on the report recommendations to make sure that what the committee was working on was reflecting those local needs. And these local stakeholders will continue to be engaged in this work as specific projects begin. Next slide. The next few slides are just some examples of the figures and information in this report. So Hopefully this will pique your interest. For example, information about community water sources. There are over 100 different public water utilities and 60,000 private wells in the region. MOSAC and the council recognize the local control for and the responsibility for owning, maintaining, and operating these water supply systems. And the different communities face very different opportunities, challenges, and limitations. Where water supply challenges extend beyond those community or water supply system boundaries, regional water supply planning efforts can help to resolve some of those challenges. Next slide. We also have information about water use, and I wanted to point out how summer versus winter water use varies by community type. Different types of communities have different water demand patterns and different water supply challenges, and there may be opportunities to tailor our regional water policy development and technical assistance to different community types. Next slide. I think most of us are aware of this, but I think it's worthwhile to highlight too that the majority of our regional parks and even state parks, trails, scientific natural areas are adjacent to water. A lot of our regional trails also follow rivers, streams, and creeks. And so there are some opportunities for water quality protection through our land management and through outreach and engagement and partnerships with our parks. Next slide. Another piece of information that is worthwhile to consider is the pollution sensitivity of our landscape. Soil depth, depth to water, deeper bedrock conditions all vary across the region, which makes some areas more sensitive to pollution than others. So land use decisions, including best management practices to mitigate risks, are shaped by considerations like pollution sensitivity. So it's useful to consider this when we're doing some of our planning. It's also useful for thinking about how we might prioritize pollution prevention or remediation programs. Next slide. So that was just an overview of this report. I wanted to share the links to where you can download the full report and learn more about the Council's water supply planning work. We will also be producing a summary, more graphic version of this report to share. So if you want to promote this information, there'll be a sort of summary version. We're working with communications to finalize that now. But I want to end by turning this back to Councilmember Wolf and saying, thank you for your leadership, creating a document like this through committee meetings that had to be done entirely online. We used a lot of new tools for online collaboration, and I just so appreciate our committee leaders and committee members for engaging so strongly in this work. Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you. And Vanya and Emily both did a tremendous amount of work pulling all of those ideas together. So I certainly don't want to take the credit. Staff had a huge piece to play in this. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you for Councilmember Wolf. Thank you for this. This report is great. You know, local water supply is always a big deal for local communities. I do really appreciate, though, that they're talking about water runoff. And of course, as that hits water supply, depending on where you are in the metro area, that's important. But this is really still focused on water supply rather than maybe like the Clean Water Act, I would be assuming, where it's largely based on pollution and pollutants, or are the two combined? Are there aspects that would play into this in this report that will go to the legislature?
Well, pollutants do, or Mr. Chair, I'd go ahead and answer that. Pollutants do play a part in threatening our water supply. We have quite a few places that have wells that are dealing with agricultural chemicals and PFAS and leachate from landfills and other hazards. So that's part of the picture.
Mr. Chair, and thank you. I assumed that, but I'm anxious to read this report. And then just my only last question, does this inform then any of our legislative priorities that we would bring, knowing that this goes to our state policymakers as well?
Well, it's designed to be an educational tool, but there's no specific legislation that's been written based on this, but there are recommendations of some programs that should be looked at for funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Wolf. I think this is cool. Thank you.
Any other questions for Councilmember Wolf or for Lania? Yeah, I have to say, I think it really is interesting. And when you think about the role we have as a metro regional point of view, this is that wonderful balance because water supply is a local, I mean, you've said this, but it's a local issue, but there's regional implications. And with this as an educational tool, I guess this is another way of, maybe it's beyond the legislature. Maybe sometimes there's more of a collaboration within a county or others. I mean, will they learn? Are we already sensing that this will make a difference in how local jurisdictions manage their resources?
I think it already has with the sub-regional water supply groups. I mean, we're building upon the previous work that MOSAC did for the 5-year report that was in 2017. But yeah, there's a lot more interest and a lot more trust in the council to provide information and help bring people together, but not dictate to our partners. So we've earned their respect, I think, over time.
Great. Any other thoughts? Any parting thoughts, Councilmember Wolf?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you. Lanya,
Well,
did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, Lania.
I want to stress again how much I appreciated the committee members' input on this report. And per the statutory language that gives the council the responsibility to do water supply planning, they do identify reports from MOSAC as being something to inform the update of the regional development guide, related policy plans. And so work like this, I think, can be really helpful as we start to think about updating policies, updating programs. And so I'm looking forward to my team and I coming back with more information, and also the master contracts that will be coming before you related to water supply, hydrogeologic research, and engineering will bring some resources to do some of the work that the committee has identified. And so I think you're going to be seeing some really great policy and technical work coming before you to consider.
Great. Well, thank you, Lanya, and Wendy, thank you. I think this shows kind of where Met Council does its best work. We're not just planners, we're researchers, and we're conveners. And to be a trusted partner is really what we aspire to be. And also, I will say, as council members, we're not divided or set apart by necessarily our geographic jurisdiction, but sometimes by subject area. So I really appreciate Councilmember Wolf, you're kind of taking this on, which is a regional perspective, in a deeper dive. Sorry for the pun, but and yet we all kind of are finding our areas and our committees and areas of where we would bring that deeper understanding. So then we all benefit. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to report on? All right, Mary, anything from the regional administrator?
Mr. Chair, I'll pass.
Well, and our general counsel, Anne, anything for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will pass as well.
This was just a check to see if Mary and Ann were here, and they are at all times, so that's good. Well, with that, you get an extra time. This is not a record, but it is a short meeting. Important work nonetheless. Great to see everybody. I know you all have busy lives. We'll see you soon. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.